No, they call it living pay. I'm a credentials.
Okay, wait.
I'm going to make credentials for that other you should pay. Yeah. Because when I'm living pay, so I'm on that method. Linking your savings because we need to log in. No, I need to log in. Yeah, log in.
No, but you ping me on machine,
This machine, that encoded. This one is 44. The encode is 44. Yes. Yeah, I can configure my machine. These are maybe 292. This is 49. Yeah. Google Chrome to the
Devza. Ndingumshini
yeah, username and password.
So you ping from which machine?
Remember, you put in the switch, the 2 cables. Yeah, the 2 cables from it.
You say this machine is connected to our network?
Not mine. Cable from any directly.
There is a blue one. But now so
No, that's shifter.
I'm not happy with me na champion. Safety officing and but why can't they do it now? Yes, we've mixed it a spray one.
Okay.
Who will do the wiping?
You
will do it?
Yeah.
I want you to use the gloves. There is a blue cloth.
Now blue EDA, rightly.
Right.
Hey.
And then tissues and whatever. This is a biohazard bed. Where can we put them? Because the gloves that we're going to use, only a halal tissue, you will use that. It's a biohazard bag, okay? Then you know how to use this.
Yeah. The gloves.
Number 2, one is fine.
Number 1, you're right. You're right.
I want to show you. Take it out. Better if I demonstrate. Don't put them on because you must dispose them.
Oh, okay.
Put it on. I'll talk to the
Okay.
and as and when you're done,
Can you remove?
as and when you're done, wait for it. Okay? Ne? Ne? Don't touch the outer part. Don't fold it nicely.
Okay.
Throw it down.
Okay.
Don't fold it nicely.
Okay. And then in terms of sanitation,
In terms of at a distance, this one you can, ne? Then use your cloth or your cloth. Just see, you take a cloth here. Sanitize the cloth.
oh, okay. All right.
You will be having your cloth. You just,
Yeah.
even here, not in the corner, while they capture it, you just do it, then you wipe it. You put the gloves on.
Okay. Maybe.
Ne?
Yeah.
So your gloves here.
Yeah.
Is it not deep?
In. You want them for people to see?
You know where not about to take it?
I'll sit there. I'll sit here by the corner.
Please.
No, I'll make sure. Don't worry.
And the gloves, please don't touch the outer part.
Yeah, I saw how you.
Yes, you touch it, you hula, then the second one, put it in the section inside.
Khadishi, can you hear me? My name is Khadishi, can you hear me?
MEC, could you please keep quiet and let the speaker chair the meeting?
You quite clearly said that these are conducted in official languages. There are 12 official languages in this country. I said, can we use English as the official language? Otherwise, let us translate it. You should have
Deputy Speaker.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, and Madam Deputy Speaker, Honorable Premier David Makura, fellow members of the Executive Council, Chief Whip, leaders of political parties, members of the Provincial Legislature, MMCs for Finance and councillors, representatives of the Auditor General's Office, senior officials of government and municipalities, representatives of business, organized labor, faith-based organizations, and civil society, distinguished guests, comrades and friends. Madam Deputy Speaker, yesterday we all woke up to sad news of the tragic passing of Istwalandwe, Siaparangwe Ntate Endrumlangeni. We are truly poorer as freedom-loving people without his presence. Consistent love, guidance, original values which represent generations of founding forebearers of the African National Congress. When one reflects on his life and that of his generation, I realize how fortunate to have been favored by faith and belong to some same organization with him and done political work with him. As South Africans and as Africans, we are indeed chosen people that the revolution spirit have favored us to have been granted the greatest gift of birth. Location of life of such brave soul who sacrificed everything he had for our own liberation. In Tatamlangeni, what we have once enjoyed deeply, we can never lose in his death. And all that we love deeply becomes as part of us. Now for his precious life and sacrifice of all the benefits that virtue confers upon us, the contempt of death of one of the greatest, as the means that accommodates human life with a soft and easy tranquility, and gives us a pure and pleasant taste of living, without which all other pleasures would be extinct. In the past few years, now we have lost a legend of rare breed and galaxies of this African revolution who epitomize selflessness, courage, humility, and best of our values amongst us. And Tatamlangeni would always tell us that we must love those who can smile in trouble, those who can gather strength from distress and grow brave by reflection. For it is the business of little minds to shrink, but they whose heart is firm and whose conscience approves their conduct will pursue their principles unto death. Elders of Rivonia trial, which Tata Mlangeni was the remaining survivor of those accused at this trial, never immediately, but remained bathed in a sort aura of life which bears no reflection to true immortality, but through which they continue to occupy our thoughts in the same way as when we were alive. The greatest gift we can give to his life is to serve with humility, dedicate ourselves to the cause of our people, look after and spend diligently resources bestowed in the pure of our accountability to quantitative and qualitative change their life and positively impact on their livelihoods. Honorable members, we also lost Member Matsena last week, Thursday, and a special sitting to pay tribute to him was held 2 days ago. Let me once again send my condolences to both Ntate Mlangeni and Matsena families for their loss. May their souls rest in peace. Today's history and fate has provided us as the generation with a unique opportunity to reimagine a new economic conscience from the ashes of the economic fallout as a consequence of global breakout of COVID-19. The fault lines of the economic system have laid to bear immeasurable inequalities, glaring poverty, and poor infrastructure, to which correction must be reimagined now. The socio-economic paradigm that we have inherited, so religiously followed and modified, has brought us to the height of unimaginable disaster of our time. Madam Speaker, I had ample time to myself and thought how we have tried to fit into the system, which does not respond to our historic background, unique situation, and a special type and its challenges. It is therefore interesting to note that at each interval, none of us could say our efforts are not making a serious dent to the legacy of our inherited past, which COVID-19 has so glaringly exposed for everyone to see. The previous crisis of the world, and indeed the current global public health emergency, has been so consciously characterized for everyone to understand where we come from, where we lived and believed as the system to come down crumbling into our own eyes. Madam Speaker, if we harbor any hope of a real new dawn in the post-COVID-19 environment, a current socio-economic system and its precedent templates must be changed. The reimagined socio-economic trajectory, policy and strategy propositions of current discussion document, which is reconstruction, growth and transformation, building a new inclusive economy, should have its foundation in an action that we take from today using legal prescripts and the budget instruments. Therefore, this special provincial adjustment budget comes as a sequel to the devastating and ravaging coronavirus pandemic across the globe and in South Africa, even more touching in Gauteng than everywhere else. Never in history and in our living memory within the current Public Finance Management Act have we been summoned by national or global circumstances to table a special provincial adjustment budget. Madam Speaker, this special adjustment budget is an instrument from Chapter 4, Section 31, Subsection 1 and 2, from A to G of the Public Finance Management Act, particularly because of unforeseeable and unavoidable expenditure recommended by the Provincial Executive Council within the framework as determined by the Minister of Finance in his supplementary budget speech. As Gauteng Province, we have seen significant increases in the number of daily infections over the past 2 months. In the last 2 weeks, we have become epicenter of this pandemic in South Africa. According to the latest statistics from the Minister of Health, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, Gauteng had more than 145,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 as of last night. As we approach the peak of this pandemic, more people have been hospitalized in our province, and many others have succumbed to COVID-19. On behalf of Gauteng Provincial Government, let me once again convey our sincere condolences to the families and friends of those that have lost as a result of COVID-19, and may God strengthen them during this difficult time. While we mourn those who have passed on, we have the duty as government to lead society in efforts to curb this pandemic and address related economic and social implications. In order to ensure that we address these challenges in an integrated manner, we have developed the COVID-19 response plan that is aimed at fighting the spread of this pandemic by reducing infection, particularly in cluster outbreaks, while at the same time addressing the associated economic, social challenges and around the Gauteng city region. The Gauteng Provincial COVID-19 Response Plan is based on the following 6 pillars. The first one is the comprehensive health response. Second one is the support to education. Third one is food security and social relief. Fourth one is enforcement and compliance measures. Fifth one is economic response. And the sixth one is social mobilization and social solidarity, which is very key in our pillars. This response plan is based on an age and need to flatten the curve. As we ride through the peak, we have been warned about when the lockdown was first declared. The allocations that we are making today are strengthening these pillars. However, unless we pay special attention to individual behavior, all these efforts will be futile unless great strides are made on how people change their attitude towards this war. This provincial special adjustment budget is aimed at doing the following 3 areas. We are aiming at providing funding to the Gauteng Provincial Government COVID-19 response plan, safeguard the implementation of Growing Gauteng Together, which is our plan, and including the interventions of the province to grow the economy and create more jobs, ensuring that we maintain fiscal sustainability in the province. Honorable members, let me emphasize that Growing Gauteng Together plan remains at the core of our actions to bring about Gauteng of our dreams. The special provincial adjustment budget that we are presenting today takes into account the reimagined GGT 2030 that is targeted to respond decisively to the new socio-economic reality that we find ourselves in as a result of COVID-19. We are convinced that the comprehensive interventions of Growing Gauteng Together plan will assist us to mitigate current economic challenges, facilitate job preservation, ensure socio-economic recovery in this period. Gauteng's intervention in the response to the COVID-19 crisis are guided by the following principles. The first one is the protection of low-income workers, unemployed and vulnerable groups in the society, strengthening the productive capacity of the domestic economy. The implementation of these interventions must be done within the context of an effective monitoring and evaluation system so that government can quickly respond in areas of low rollout. Our message in this regard is that we are still on track with the implementation of Growing Gauteng Together plan. The reprioritization that we have done in this special provincial adjustment budget has not impacted negatively on the Growing Gauteng Together plan in terms of the programs. Honorable members, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic is as significant as the Great Depression and the Great Recession. The International Monetary Fund now estimates that the global economy will contract by 3% in 2020. Already the significant signs of this contraction are evident with the major economies, such as the United States, China, and Germany, all contracting in the first quarter of 2020. This is expected to worsen in the second quarter as the increasing impact of the national lockdown measures takes effect on the economic activities. The extent of this current recession has not been fully laid bare. There are clear indications of disruptions to global supply chains as manufacturing production declines as do the prices of key energy and non-energy inputs, including precious metals. The disruption of investment projects is of a serious concern as investors re-evaluate prospects now. Already the first quarter investment in Japan and in Germany and in the US has declined. This signals a call for policy action. Honorable members, you will recall that even before the advent of the pandemic, our country's economy had already entered a technical recession due to a number of factors, including low business and consumer confidence, low growth in investment, and constrained fiscal space amidst the growing funding needs for the state-owned enterprises. The current data in South Africa hint at the further negative impact on the COVID-19 on economic activity. The first quarter decline in GDP signals a clear recession that will deepen the second quarter. Current forecast from the National Treasury suggests that the economy will contract by 7.2% in 2020, mainly as a result of the national lockdown. However, in 2021, a recovery to 2.6% is expected. Closer to home, in the first quarter, the provincial government contracted 1.3% after a contraction of 1.4% in the fourth quarter of 2019. Current forecasts suggest that the Gauteng economy will contract by 6% in 2020. That is why we are taking urgent additional steps to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on the provincial economy and protect particularly the poor, the vulnerable during these difficult times. Honorable members, we are a caring government, and that's why our country, using limited resources at our disposal, is implementing one of the largest COVID-19 interventions in developing world. Through the 500 billion economic stimulus package that was announced by our President, Ubabu Ramaphosa, in April, various social relief measures have been rolled out through the existing social grant system to protect the vulnerable households in Gauteng and indeed the rest of the country during these difficult times. In addition, economic relief measures are being implemented to firstly preserve the economy and jobs, including jobs. Through the Unemployment Insurance Fund COVID-19 Relief Scheme, we have seen that. Secondly, to support the economy to recover. And lastly, to build a new economy and set in on growth trajectory that is necessary to create jobs and reduce unemployment. As Gauteng City Region, we support the national initiatives that have benefited citizens in this province. As part of special adjustment budget, we are tabling today, we are announcing the provincial economic response to COVID-19 to strengthen socio-economic recovery of Gauteng, which is the province that contributes more than 34% to the country's gross domestic product. Honorable members, let me now turn to the special adjustment budget. In March, I presented the provincial budget to assist us to fund our COVID-19 measures due to limited resources at their disposal. As a result, the department had to reprioritize internally while maintaining fiscal discipline to ensure that we fund our comprehensive response COVID-19 plan. In total, provincial departments collectively reprioritized 7.9 billion within the existing baseline to accommodate the COVID-19 related expenditure. This reprioritization was made possible by, amongst others, the realization of savings amid the national breakdown regulations, projects and events that impacted by COVID-19 pandemic, delays in the fulfilling of the vacant posts. I would like to thank all the departments for cooperating with us as we implemented the deeper reprioritization process that was absolutely necessary so that we can fund our response plan to COVID-19. Some of these reprioritization were finalized as follows. Under health, they have reprioritized 2.1 billion to implement phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of the human resource capacitation requirement, and 786 million for COVID-19 infrastructure projects. Under education, we reprioritized 5.2 billion to comply with the national precondition of the opening of schools and to support catch-up activities. Areas to be funded include the appointment of additional personnel to assist the screening, social distance, hygiene, sanitization, and personal protective equipment. Under social development, we have reprioritized 257 million to procure PPE, upscale the food distribution program, and to provide shelter for the homeless during the national lockdown. Community safety reprioritized a total of 47.5 million, which includes funds for the payment of community patrollers and overtime of traffic officers deployed during the lockdown. Under the Department of Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation, we have reprioritized a total of 79.4 million, which included, amongst others, funds for the relief to support artists and sporting professionals who suffered economic losses during the COVID-19 pandemic. Other provincial departments have prioritized budget to cater for the COVID-19 related requirements, such as the provision of sanitizers, masks to staff members, and decontamination of the office buildings. In terms of the comprehensive GPG health and social response to COVID-19 pandemic, the special adjustment budget allocates the following resources as follows, including that have been reprioritized within the existing baseline as indicated above. A total of 5.9 billion is allocated to the health response and will be used to do the following. The first one will be to provide health infrastructure, including refurbishment of the facilities and build field hospitals. The second one will be to procure necessary medical equipment. The third one will be to ensure that the provision of personal protective equipment, oxygen and test kits are there. And the fourth one will be hiring and remuneration of frontline health personnel, which is a key component of the COVID-19 response. A total of 6.3 billion is allocated to the Department of Education, of which 5.2 billion has been reprioritized internally and 1.2 billion is new money, aimed at COVID-19 resourcing the requirements outlined by the sector, which are a precondition to the resumption of the schooling. An amount of 88.9 million has been allocated to the Department of Social Development to deal with aspects of COVID-19 response and extend beyond the normal responsibilities, such as shelters for those people that are homeless. Infrastructure is a fundamental enabler towards delivery of services, creation of sustainable jobs, and economic growth and development. In line with the provincial priorities as outlined in the GGT 2030, the infrastructure budget directly supports the economy and delivery of infrastructure in the province. This infrastructure budget also contributes to other provincial priorities such as education, health, and human settlement. Despite the decreases in some departmental budgets, special provincial budget adjustment budget sees an increase in infrastructure budget by 5.3% from 11.6 billion to 12.2 billion. The increase is driven by the COVID-19 infrastructure requirements in health, where the budget for infrastructure has more than doubled from 2 billion to 4.2 billion. This budget will be used to provide additional health facilities and refurbish existing ones in the response to COVID-19 pandemic. This proposed budget protects the infrastructure investment in the province. However, more rigorously, measures must be exerted in improving our job creation targets and their achievement. The capacity of the spending of departments must be improved in order to avert the key risk that these budgets are not fully spent by the end of the 2020-2021 financial year. Through our infrastructure budget, we will continue to focus on doing the right thing in the right manner to get optimum results following good governance principles. As part of the review of the GGT 2030, departments ensure that they are ready for the implementation of their initiatives that is linked to their plan. Where acceleration, and especially on infrastructure, is possible, it must be implemented without delay. Growing Gauteng Together plan interventions will need to respond timelessly in a very targeted manner. Our interventions need to be tailored to a specific sector and for specific and vulnerable groups in our society. Growing Gauteng Together Plan 2030 contains a comprehensive measures that can help with the economic mitigation, job preservation, socio-economic recovery of this period. And therefore, it is critical not to lose sight of these measures because Gauteng is the engine of South Africa's economy. Towards the economic response, the following amounts have been allocated. We have allocated an amount of 250 million to support small, medium, and micro enterprises through partnerships with the private sector to raise money required to expand procurement and business development support. Supporting township economic development through regulatory reform and programs. 28.3 million is towards the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Recreation as a relief fund, and 14 million is for the contribution to operational costs for the Tshwane Automotive Special Economic Zone. An amount of 47.5 million has been allocated to the enforcement and compliance measures to resource the operations of traffic officers and patrollers, as well as procurement of personal protective equipment. Furthermore, 20 million is allocated towards ward-based civic education and COVID-19 awareness. In this regard, I would like to call upon our people to continue to follow the golden rules of fighting the spread of COVID-19. Wear a mask when you are in public at all times. Wash your hands frequently, at least 20 seconds, and maintain physical distance and social distancing. It has been demonstrated globally that when it comes to fighting the spread of COVID-19, these golden rules are important to protect ourselves and to protect those that are around us. Honorable members, our people rightfully expect government to use their hard-earned taxes to respond appropriately and decisively to curbing the COVID-19 pandemic. They also want us to implement social and economic measures to safeguard their livelihoods that have been impacted severely by this pandemic. The Gauteng Provincial Treasury is fully committed to support departments, municipalities, and public entities in implementing their COVID-19 measures and providing oversight to ensure compliance with the rules and regulations when public funds are spent. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, let me express my profound appreciation to Honorable Premier David Makhura for his leadership and support and guidance to ensure that we allocate the limited provincial resources to key priorities that impact positively on the lives of our citizens. Ngiyabulela kakhulu tata nge-confidence that you gave it to me to lead even this department under these difficult conditions. But with your support, there is nothing that has been fallen in the cracks. Thank you so much. My colleagues in the Executive Council, the Premier's Budget Committee, chaired again by the Honorable Premier David Makhura, for their cooperation and participation in all the robust budget engagements. There is no way that you have left us unattended when we were dealing with these budget meetings, because you wanted a direction from us, ufuna senze into a right to assist the citizens of Gauteng. And I think we are following the tune. We are going to be in line with what we expect from us. The decline in the baseline allocations of departments as a result of reprioritization process at the national level, together with the anticipated decline of our own revenue collection, further complicated the work of the Provincial Budget Council to respond not just to health, but to all the departments in fighting this pandemic. Now we're busy grappling on how can we make sure that we go back to our own revenue collection so that we can up the game as the province. And with your advice, Premier, we know we will achieve this one too. The Premier's Budget Committee spearheaded the difficult process of determining how best to promote socio-economic development by allocating a limited resource envelope to unlimited funds. The Finance Portfolio Committee and the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, under the capable leadership of Honorable Joe Mpisi and Honorable Sochaile, who's the member of Sochaile Kanyile, respectively, for their insight and oversight on all the budget matters. My HOD, Nomfundo Shabalala, and the entire Treasury team for their hard work and dedication to efficiently manage the public funds. Thank you so much, HOD. Lastly, let me take this opportunity to thank the most important people in my life, which is my family, especially my children, for their constantly support on my work of serving the people of Gauteng. They are a source of great strength to me. Madam Speaker, I present the Special Provincial Adjustment Budget in accordance with Section 31, Subsection 1 of the Public Finance Management Act of 1999. Thank you.